Hey guys, I am Dominic from the Cosplay and welcome to this final last YouTube video of our Kratos cosplay from God of War. Yes, the costume started last year in January 2025 and normally I put myself the time of 2 months building this project, and well, as you can see, we are a bit later than 2 months. But yeah, you know how that's going. Then you have other projects and you have things that are more important, and then you lose motivation, and then you don't know how to continue anymore, and then you see that the algorithm doesn't push your content, so you think all people don't care about what you're doing, and you ask yourself why you are doing all this. Yeah, that's a normal classic cosplay journey, I would say. But never mind, I found the motivation again, and this is again thanks to you, because I got off questions why there are no videos coming anymore, and asking when the next videos are coming actually, so that you can continue your own Kratos cosplay. And yeah, this gave me the final motivation to continue this project, and here is now the final crafting video about how we made the trousers and the leg armor. So with this, have fun watching the last Kratos video. Let's start with the pants. For this part, I want to mention something important. This is actually the very first time in my life that I've sewn a pair of pants completely on my own. If you're new by sewing, then you know that this is something quite difficult. Because of that, I didn't design this piece myself. I followed a pattern and a tutorial by NDLWRK. So I won't be showing a full step-by-step guide here, since the design and method are based on their work. This was mainly a learning experience for me to understand the process. You can find their work and original pattern in the description below, and I really recommend checking it out if you are new with sewing. Of course, I made a ton of mistakes, and the pants turned out far from perfect. But since most of them are covered by the rest of the armor, they were a really great beginner piece to learn from. In the end, I add some paint to make the pants look worn and dirty, and that's it already. They are finished. Let's move on to the hose, or the leg gaiters. I'm not entirely sure if that's the correct term. I asked ChatGPT and he told me these 2 terms, so feel free to correct me if this isn't the correct word. So here I took Marvin's measurements first to create a template. His proportions are a bit tricky. He has narrow ankles but much wider calves, and the gaiters need to slide over the legs. Because of that, I decided to make the upper section noticeably wider than actually needed to be. This allowed me to avoid using a zipper altogether, which made the build much easier and doesn't change the final look. I recommend ironing the seams flat on the inside so they don't rub against the skin or cause discomfort later. We are almost done with the part. I turn it inside out, just like with the pants, give it a worn-aged look so it doesn't appear like clean, perfect fabric. Okay, now we go for the leg wraps. I'm using a thick brown linen fabric and first mark the cutting lines on the material with a white pencil. To make the straps more durable, I sew 2 layers of fabric together. Depending on the length of your fabric, this means you'll need either 4 long pieces or 8 shorter ones if you sew them in the middle together. To be honest, this doesn't make any difference for the final look, since the straps are wrapped around the leg and the middle seam won't be visible. To join the 2 fabric pieces, I use these clamps, which I find easier to use than pins. When sewing, make sure the seam stays straight. With long pieces like that, it's easy to accidentally sew in a curve if you lose focus. Next, I turn the strips over and sew the other side together as well. You'll need a bit of patience here, since these are relatively long fabric strips and can take some time to sew together. Finally, I sew along the edges one more time to help them lay nice and flat. And here, as you know by now, I add some weathering to the fabric for the final look. Let's move on to the final part, the knee armor. Here I feel again more comfortable, since it's something about crafting, and as well the absolute last crafting piece of this project. If you've seen my other videos, you know the process now. Create a template, cut it out on EVA foam and glue it together. We use afterwards a Dremel to sand all the corners and edges cleanly, and then use a soldering iron to smooth the sanded areas and burn off any tiny particles. We use now a stone to press a leather-like texture into the foam, giving it a more realistic and detailed appearance. By the way, if you're interested in learning more about texturing, you can check out our beginner-friendly book on our website. It explains 10 different textures techniques in detail. And the best part, you don't need any expensive tools. Everything can be done with everyday items. The book also covers painting techniques, showing you how to bring textures like this leather effect to life. The link is in the video description. Now we need to sew leather cords all around the edges of our armor. Believe it or not, it took me 2 full days to booth armor pieces. Don't underestimate how much time this can actually take. I'm not going to tell you anything new now. Here I paint the cords with brown grey tones to give them a worn, used look. Now we move on to making the armor fastening from faux leather. At this point, you professionals here know how it's going. Create a template, trace it onto the fabric, cut 2 identical pieces to sew together, turn them inside out and sew along the edges. You're going to see that at the curved parts it's going to be a bit difficult to sew, but I know you can do it. Here we hand sew around the edges again. I recommend putting on a show or a series because this part will take quite a bit of time again. You can also see that after a few hours it really started to hurt my fingers. Putting on a small bandage is a good idea to protect your skin before starting. I sadly didn't have the same colored cords anymore, so I had to do a more intensive paint job to make everything match. But as you can see, it worked quite well. Finally, I attach snap buttons to both the leather and the armor itself. This makes them easy to fasten and also gives an accurate finished look. Oh yeah, and remember your poor neighbors, because this part makes a lot of noise. And here is the final result. Please forgive me the footage here. It's not the cleanest. I didn't have any assistance this time and had trouble finding the right lighting. I think even though you can still see everything clearly enough, hopefully. So even though I am very happy that the project is finished finally now, I still get a bit emotional to know that this is the actual last video you're going to see of this crafting process. In a few weeks I will actually post the whole crafting process of the costume, so that's going to be a video about 40 or 50 minutes so that you can see everything again, one behind another. And yeah, but this is the last video of the new crafting stuff and I really hope that you liked everything. Thank you again to everybody who pushed me, who told me to not give up and that you actually like our content. And if you want to support our work for free, you can put a like, a comment or a share on this video so that the algorithm sees that, well, we are doing crafting stuff. And if you want to support us in another way, we have Patreon, we have our online shop where we sell our books, our patterns, and there is coming more in the next year about this. So thanks to everybody who supports, well, me, Dodo, Dominic, Dodo Cosplay, as you want to call me. And with that, I wish you a very nice day and hope to see you again next time. Bye!